It's your man, Travis Paul Rogers, here, your favorite co-host of our new game show, Can She Catch a Carl? The bitches go wild.
Ladies.
Oh, yes. You gotta be politically correct on our podcast, even though we said we had to put a new roof on the building because it was raining bitches.
That's off camera.
That's off camera. Only if we make this total happen. All right. To my right, my amazing contestant and co-host, Carl, the master Big C, the man, the myth, the Amish beard that almost connects and squats 805 pounds in training.
In training.
Possibly this weekend. And to my left, our lovely three contestants, very real, very invisible ladies. Oh my God, we're so excited to be on the show. We really wanted to congratulate you and thank you so much for your time and putting your interest forward and possibly grabbing a date with our man Carl. Contestant number one, I think that's Laura LaShawn. What's your name? It's Lola. Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here and meet Carl in person. Yeah, he's okay. He's not that great. But anyway, Lola, if we asked you one question, what would be the number one reason you're interested in Carl? Well, I just think he's such a big hunk and he's just so helpful at meets, and just to see him finally squat 800 pounds is just really gonna make it for me. I can't wait to go on this date. I can't wait for you to go on that date too, and hopefully this weekend we do make that a possibility. Both the 805, I'm more concerned about the 805 and the date.
We're just riding on the squat. That's about it.
Just the squat. The intro is good, right?
I loved it. I was really surprised by it because this is my first time hearing it.
I worked really hard on that, dude. Like, I really did, man. I thought in the shower of how to do the song and everything, and just like the transitions and the voices. Like, dude, you don't know how long it took me to piece this together.
You got to work on your Lola voice, though.
I know. It's probably it's not very good. Anyway, besides that, and all the things that have torn me apart, nothing has made me more whole. Covering the good, the bad, and the shit that keeps us going, straight from the head ref's table, I'm your host, Travis Papa Rogers, and you are listening to A Forest Through the Trees, a cave podcast, here with our already introduced co-host, Big C.
Big C.
Dude, I don't even have sign languages for mine. Like,
I don't know which way the camera's going to pick it up.
Yeah, it's probably backwards, like a mirror. This is episode 4.
This is 4. Yeah, pretty crazy, right?
Pretty crazy. So we had our bye week last week. Episode 4, super pumped for it, but not only because it's episode 4, but more for what it means. And this weekend and the podcast that thematically it makes for us, peaking and going into this meet with you this weekend.
Very topical.
And where are we going?
We are going to York, PA.
York, PA.
RPS, the PA States.
It's Gene's...
Yeah.
It's Gene's memorial meet, right?
It is.
Which is amazing. Shout out to Gene, R.I.P., man. He was always so kind to me and the kids when I brought all the kids out for the RPS meets, and actually Pauline in the other room, lo and behold, the other history teacher at my school who ran the powerlifting club with me and brought all these kids to their very first, second, and third meets, man. And Gene was always just so hyped to see us with the kids and just was really encouraging and kind with all them. So, definitely will be missed, man. Was a great guy and an incredible powerlifter. So can't appreciate and shout him out enough. So, and we continue to honor his legacy and do our RPS meets, especially locally here in our tri-state area and out into PA. So our big thing we're talking about this week is peaking, man. What is it? How do you go about it? What has changed over the years for us possibly versus like old programs versus new programs, raw versus equipped? We have quite the cavalcade of topics to talk about, and our minutes haven't rolled over, so we're going to try to do it, and probably, this is wrong, probably like 52 minutes because I forgot to do it for the Lola intro. So let's get right into it. So when you hear this term peaking, right, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you, Carl?
Taking big weights. Taking the heavy ones.
Taking the heavy ones, right? And this isn't just like a penny into a fountain, right, or a shit into a can. This is like the ones that are supposed to mimic and help prepare you for the meet, right?
This is the practice going in. You have to, what you said, mimic exactly what you're doing on the platform the day of, just for that whole however long you're running your peak.
Right, and we're trying to practice what we preach, right? We want to get as specific and close to the things that we're trying to model that would be on the platform in training, right? So first thing we're doing in peaking is we're dropping the fatigue as much as possible, right? So we want to elevate and keep those weights heavy and your fitness level high. So we got to think of like almost like an X diagram, right? So we have volume going down. If you're listening to this, my hands are going from a high point on a hill to a low point on the hill, going left or right. And then of course we have heaviness going on the opposite side of the hill at the bottom, going left up to the top. So we're kind of meeting in this X pattern where obviously the top point of that intensity hill will be at the meet, right? Because we're trying to get there with a little scoopity-doo with that intensity for a taper week, if that's how you're choosing to peak. We choose to peak that way.
Yes.
We hardly ever peak right into a meet.
I don't think I've ever peaked into a meet. I can't imagine it would do very well for me. But
I've seen people do crazy shit like 10 weeks out is a 10 by 10, and it just whittles its way down like 9 by 9, 8 by 8, and literally counts down the way. I thought that shit was buck wild and crazy.
That sounds so extra.
Yeah, you would be fucking done by the time you got to the meet, dude. I wouldn't have shit left. Yeah. I would get fucked up on week 7, dude. You know me. I have no luck with that. So again, we're trying to drop the fatigue as much as possible so the volume is reduced, the intensity goes up and stays up towards the meet, and then we're getting, like we said before, extremely meet specific. Now, since me and Carl train mainly conjugate, and we utilize things like dynamic effort, 8x3s, 10x2s, 6x4s, and we usually accommodate AR and some kind of auxiliary bar, those do stay in rotation for DEs, but all your DE, we're talking about dynamic effort. Sorry for those listening who don't run conjugate. We're probably talking foreign languages over here. And ME, maximal efforts, right? So all our big lifts we're going to be taking no longer become about like just the big weight for the AR for a triple or a double. It becomes singles and exclusive to the bars you're going to be catering to in the meet, right? So if we're using, your meet's using the thick boy, right?
It's using the big thick boy, yeah, the 30 kilo.
Yeah, 30 kilo squat bar, so a whopping 66 pounds and you barely get your hands around the cheese grater on your back, right?
Yeah, I was just telling you the other week where I was like holding the regular bar. I was like, this feels like nothing compared to what I've been using for like 5 weeks now.
I was with a client, my new client Kat, in here the other day, and we were working on some squat techniques, and I was under the bar with her. And I was on a power bar, dude. It felt like I was squatting on a toothpick.
You're holding a noodle.
Yeah, it was so tiny. I was so uncomfortable. And then, of course, your deadlift bar, whether or not you're using that, depending. And then for most of our meets in gear, we're going to be using a thicker bench bar as well. We don't usually bench on a power bar. Usually it's a Bulldog, which is 50, or a bench bar, which is 55, custom made by like FA Customs or bars of similar nature. Your 30 kilo bars, you're gonna be looking at old school like Iron Wolves and things like that, or F8 makes one now.
If they have one, I feel like the Iron Wolves are pretty hard to find now.
They're hard to find nowadays. Same with Oki bars for deadlifts.
Yeah.
And then of course you have Texas made one too, Texas Monster Squat Bar.
Oh
which
yeah,
it's same diameter and thickness. The thick boys with all those double C's and triple K's. So those are the things that we're looking at as our meet, right? So dropping fatigue, elevating and maintaining that fitness level, and then of course getting as specific as possible to practice how we want to play at the actual meet, right?
That's right.
So one of the things me and Carl really want to talk about, and I think you're going to talk a little bit more at the end of this because you have almost just as much experience with this as me, because I mean we've done a couple geared peaks together now, right?
Yep.
And of course, I have a little more experience with you versus like programming peaks and raw peaks and things like that, because we all know you have such a stunning raw background.
You gotta scroll a few times on open.
Yeah, dude, just pages for Carl on his raw meets. So I went back and I did some research today, and I combed through some of my oldest programming and maybe like some of the first things we looked up as far as percentage wise and how we were going about. So one of my oldest programs, usually there would always be a deload before your final. So including the deload, it would be 6 weeks out from a meet.
Okay.
Right? So you would deload on the 6th week out, and then it would be, instead of going, week 1, week 2, week 3, it would literally be backwards, right? I organize mine in a countdown.
Okay.
Right? I always think countdowns help me the most, right? So I'm like, oh shit, how close am I to the heaviest attempts? When's this taper coming, etc., right? So 5 weeks out for your third, it would be your third heaviest, right? We were looking at like 99 to 100% of the projected third.
Right.
with your openers being about 87 to 88%, and your second attempts looking about 94 to 95% taken beforehand on that week. So week 5, obviously you weren't doing all 3 SBD lifts in a day, but you were taking those mock performances, right?
Weekly totals?
Right. We weren't doing weekly totals back then,
okay,
right?
okay.
So this is just talking about singular lifts, right?
Gotcha.
So if this was a Friday, you would work up to your last warm up, and then you would take your 87 to 88 for your opener. You take your 94 to 95 for your second attempt, and then depending on how that moved, you move into your 99 to 100%, right? Usually 99 being something that was your max, or you had taken before, 100% being that new projected one that you wanted on the platform, right? Now, keep in mind, this is how we used to peak. I think I've changed this model over time, and we'll talk about that as we kind of get more into it, because I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you haven't seen me do something like that in a while. 4 weeks out would be the last heavy volume week with no attempts, and this is different from what we do now, right? Mm-hmm. So week 4 wouldn't be taking any openers or second attempts or third attempts like that week 5. It would be your last heavy volume. So it would be like, you're not saying your all-time heaviest, but it would be your last time you do like a pretty heavy, like 3x3 or something like that, because these were programs much more linear back then versus like a more conjugate method now, right? Because I think my other days, unintentionally, I was probably programming like more things like 2 and 3x10s of close grip or Duffalo, which in turn, now that I look back at it, it was speed work.
Oh, yeah.
It was dynamic. I just didn't realize
it
wasn't dynamic back then. So you look back at stuff you've done and you're like, this is the first time I've ever done conjugate. No, this is the first time I've called it conjugate, because I look back and because I think a big misconception, I think we should say that before we continue, is conjugate, if you see the word conjugate, that doesn't mean bands and chains, right? A lot of people think it just means bands and chains. It's the regulating weekly loads of dynamic effort, which is moving things fast and technically sound, versus ME, which is your maximal effort, getting close to your circa maxes, and you're going heavy as you can for that day.
Some people say recruiting the most muscle units.
Muscle units, recruiting them. That's what we be doing on them days, right? So it's a balance between those revolving doors of speed work and maximal effort work. And I hate the term speed work, and I know you and me have had tons of conversations about this, right? Especially in the geared lifting community, you see guys do, an 8x3, and the benches look like this.
They're throwing themselves off the bench.
Yeah, throwing themselves off the bench. Like, cool, you moved it fast, but you moved it as shittily fast as you... Yeah, it looks terrible. Zero translation. They're like, oh, well, it's super explosive. Yeah, with the worst fucking technique possible. So, I always preach to my clients, and I make sure I yell at Carl for this. But you're great about it. No, I'm not saying I yell at you. You're awesome about it. I don't think you're like, fuck, we're like a week out and this man's going to expose me on here for my bad tendencies.
Either you do it now or I'll do it to myself on the platform.
I'm like, this is what I fucking meant on the podcast. I'm just going to yell that out to you while you're on the bench. You suck. This is what I meant, bro. No, but it's like you want to move it explosively and fast, but not at the cost of technique.
And that's a skill you have to learn. You have to learn how to move things with intention, but also keep yourself in control.
And I think that's a great way to put it. Thank you, Carl. With intention. Yes. I like that. That's great. That's a really good word for that. So intentionally fast, not fast for the sake of being fast.
Exactly.
If you can move it super fast and it looks like shit, good for you, but that's not the purpose of the exercise. Yeah. So 3 weeks out, we'd be moving into openers, usually programmed for a 2x1s. All right. Those, of course, are going to be with commands, right? Okay. And we have lots of people who are referees in the cave who have been to enough meets on staff and stuff that they weren't a referee to call responsible and withheld the standard of commands, right?
Honest commands.
Honest commands, right? No quickies over here, right? And then we've taken one more after that 2x1 at openers at a below second/conservative second attempt, looking at and we'll talk about the tree, quote unquote, in a minute, and that would be around a 92%. So when we talk about meat selection and attempts, and we talk about trees, we're literally talking not to reuse our title from the last time, but sometimes good, sometimes shit, right? So if we take our opener, right, and we have this tree branch, right, inside our middle tree is our opener, right? To the left goes a branch, to the right goes a branch, right? So if we take that opener, and opener is shit, right? We have a branch option this way. If it was a smoke show, like it moved like it was supposed to, our nerves didn't get hold of us, we have a left branch, right? So we have options in a ladder basically to forge these attempt selections to do the best on the day of what's been given to us, right? And I think that's super important, and I've beat that dead horse with you a million times, right?
Yep.
One of the biggest things I say to Carl and many other people in here, the platform doesn't care what you want. Right? The weights don't care what you want. It's about what you can get done during that day and what's given to you, right? It doesn't matter what you want. It's about what you can handle and what you can get, because it's about stringing together the most successful attempts to build a total. And I think that's lost on many, especially younger lifters.
I like that, the most successful, not the best possible.
Right, yeah. It's like, yeah, you could do this on a perfect day, but like, if I watch your opener and it move like shit, I'm like, hey, that's probably not that day.
Maybe we, take the route less traveled on this one.
Yeah, let's look at our tree branch chart. Which one says, hey, we should not take this because you're going to fuck this up and miss a big lift already, right? Because especially when we talked about this in the other podcast, one of the biggest big like no-nos is, especially with new lifters, they get hung up on attempts, right? If they pick one and they're overzealous and greedy and they miss one, they let it sabotage the rest of their meet, right? Hey, I tanked my second attempt squat and now the rest of the day is going to be an absolute shit show, when it doesn't have to be, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why we take the time to build these charts and look at these different percentages and say, hey, if this felt like this, let's go here. If it felt like this, let's go here. And I think that's another really important thing in training, because usually our peaks, I would say 95% of your MI peaks are based off percentages.
Okay, so yes, they're based off percentages, but as I'm going into a peak, we're running a lot of RPE programs.
Mm-hmm.
So the numbers that I'm putting up during the RPE programs
are the ones that ultimately forge your percentages.
Right, that's what I'm trying to get at. And I'll yeah.
Like
I'm using those big numbers. Shit. If I'm taking something as like a RPE 8 or 9, and then I'm like, okay, well, if that was a 9 and an honest 9, you have to be really honest with yourself about those. That's the percent. That other number, the other jump, would be the percent I'm taking to go into a peak. So anything from that point forward is what I'm basing everything off of.
You have to be honest with yourself in powerlifting?
It helps.
Oh, I've been doing this wrong the whole time.
It helps.
And then 2 weeks out was our openers for another 2x1, except for deadlifts, which was more in the last warm-up range. So I always let deadlifts teeter off first as far as the taper go, right? Because I found, for me in particular, and most of the athletes I took through these trial and error first programs and peaks with, a lot of us, our deadlifts would feel like shit quicker than the other two.
What's that like? Deadlifts feeling like shit?
Oh yeah, you wouldn't know. But I think this has changed over time because I did make modifications to that as time went on. And I went down and I tracked through that and I said, same thing. We usually kept the idea of the 6th weeks out being a deload. And then the 5th week was changed to moving into our 90%. So versus our old peaks, 5 weeks out would be the heaviest things we do and it would taper in. Versus 5 weeks out on this one, we would kind of more like a reload. So it was a deload, then a reload to push you back up towards those big percents. So it gave you a week to like, oh shit, like I gotta accommodate again. You know what I mean?
Hey, body, I'm gonna ask you to do this for these coming weeks.
Not
this is what we're gonna
hey,
do
week 6 we did 50%. Next week we're doing 99%. So like it gave you that week to kind of accommodate to that, and I started enjoying that a lot more and had a lot of success with that. And those were the times I was doing my heaviest. Both raw and sleeves and raw with wrap totals and going like top 10 for 181 and top 10 for 198.
Super subtle flex.
Yeah, super subtle flex. I honestly really didn't move more into the style of you and me doing this until probably I was writing my own peaks when I recovered and we were going into freaks. Right, because that's when you started getting more interested in gear and stuff as well, right?
Yeah, I had thrown on a pair of briefs here and there.
Right, because that's when I really started reanalyzing things. It's like, okay, how can I stick with what I know, but also how can I morph this in a way that's going to work better with literal equipment on?
Right.
4 weeks out was the heaviest squat and dead, but only to 98. So this is when I stopped taking 100% in programs, right?
Okay.
So this would go up to like 98%. So let's say at the meet we wanted to squat. Actually, I did this last time. Okay. So let's say at the meet I wanted to squat 810, right? I might only on the heaviest day of that peak take like 790 or 795.
Okay.
Right? Which is really hard to do because like 800's right there and you're like, bro,
right
it's
on
just
the cusp.
five. It's just 5 pounds.
You're not going to fail because of 5 pounds.
I just throw 5 pounds. But it's the idea, right? So you're literally...
It's the principle.
Right. You're saving yourself for when it actually counts, right? So we're actually trying to PR on the platform and not in a training day 4 weeks beforehand. That's going to mean absolutely fuck all, right? And then 89 to 90% as the opener and a 90 as seconds. So even those, the opener went up a little bit and the seconds went down a little bit, right? Because as I started getting more comfortable and more experienced in peaking, I could usually handle, I'd get less jitters in an opening meet. Okay. You know, like an opening attempt. Like,
yeah.
We always want to lowball those opening attempts because, like, you know, we say you should be able to do it drunk, sick on one foot and still be able to get that opener in the door you have your golden ticket for the meet. But at the same time, like, as you get more experience, you do lose some of those jitters and can execute technical skill under pressure more often. So generally those openers, especially as your third attempts grow in weight, and you're like, shit, well, I really don't want to make that big. That's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of ground to cover. So you can try to up those just a little bit. Again, you should be super confident in those still.
Yeah, at the same time, no one goes to a meet being like, I can't wait to hit my opener. You know, you can't wait to hit the big one, but you have to keep your openers within range so you're not making stupid jumps the whole time.
Man, you're really on it today, dude. You're like up here, bro.
I know.
It's like you want to do good this weekend. It's like you pay attention to me.
I've kind of like angled my entire life around this for like the past like 4 or 5 months.
My whole life's pinnacle has been waiting to film this podcast. All my knowledge right now. But honestly, like, that's a really good thing to say because I don't think it's said enough is, you know, you get a lot of younger kids and more inexperienced lifters when they peak where they're saying like, oh, like, everyone's so hyped. Do you ever just notice that, especially younger lifters than me, they're always so hyped to tell you your opener? Or if you're an experienced guy, the younger lifters are so hyped to ask you what your opener is.
Right, yeah.
Like, I can't tell you how many young guys who have, like, followed me on Instagram and we'll meet at, like, an RPS meet, and they're like, Travis, man, like, what are you opening with, bro? What are you opening with? And I'm like, something that's going to be like super easy for me. Yeah. Like something I hope doesn't impress you because like I need to just get it going, right? I want to build momentum. So like,
I think even in here in the past like 2 weeks, I've had several people ask me like, what's your opener?
Yeah. Like,
what are you doing?
Yeah. Like it's a bad mindset to like try to come in with a huge opener. Like, no one wins off of openers. Like, that's not your focus,
If you won off of an opener, that means somebody else got hurt.
Or you're up against, like, complete freaks of nature. But,
right.
like, you know what I mean? Like, no one should come in with the sole objective, like, I'm going to bang my opener is the heaviest opener in this room. Now, if it happens to be, it happens to be.
Congrats.
But, like, yeah, that's not the name of the game. The name of the game is it needs to be an appropriate opener for your weight and experience level.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important to remember. So
I think
write that one down.
A really good example of that. I don't know if you have seen it. You may have. 2016. What were you doing in 2016?
Me?
Yeah. Were you competing?
Yeah.
Okay, but like, were you competing at a higher level?
No, I might have done a Maryland State Championship, but it was still local level meets.
Okay, so it was like the IPF Worlds when John Hack was there. With like those two other, what was he, like a 181 or 183 then?
Right.
The 83 kilo. Though it was him and two other guys that were competing at the IPF Worlds. And two of them were good at bench. He wasn't great at bench yet, and he was still good, but he wasn't like where he is now.
That's so weird. That's so weird to say out loud. Like, oh, he wasn't that good at bench. He was probably still better at bench than like 90.
He was still 400 some pounds.
Yeah.
But like the opener ranges they chose put themselves in a much different position going into their bench, and he was still able to climb that ladder in those guys, even though he took a lower opener in the beginning and take the higher route towards the end.
Yeah, so you're trying to say he used to be a deadlift specialist. That's what it sounds like, bro.
I think he'd always kind of. He's okay. No. He wasn't a deadlift specialist. No, he's very well rounded.
we do know a lot of those people though. You're like, bro, what's your bench? Like 300? Just wait till deadlifts, bro. And it's like an 800-pound deadlift.
Yeah. Some freak with like 5-foot arms is gonna walk out and put 75% of his total on his deadlift.
Yeah. I mean, there's people like that. So then looking at this, 3 weeks out, changed into the heavy. We changed to a heavy squat double.
Okay.
Right. So we didn't go back up into like the over 95%. We changed it to 93% and do a double. Right. And usually that was a PR double for me. I think every peak I did that was usually a PR double.
That was like a staple, like a feeler. Like I have to PR this double. I'm gonna take something.
Not like you had to PR this double, but if your prep had been going the way it should have been, 93%, like based off the number, if you were responsible plugging in, it just happened to usually end up being a PR. You know what I mean? It wasn't like you chose the number to PR. It was just like based off that percent on how things were going. It just usually happened to be. And it might have been small. It might have been like 5-10 pounds. But you
would still call that like a feeler, like a lift during that peak. Like that's the one you feel for to like.
I mean, dude, I'm gonna be real with you. When you bang that PR double, and you'd be like, I'm ready.
Oh, I can take anything right now.
Yeah. Now, this is one of the biggest things I changed though. That 3 weeks out on those amended ones. This is probably around like 20. It's probably like 2019, 2020. I moved the dead after that 4 weeks out. That was super heavy because our 4 weeks out deadlift was 98%. 3 weeks out moved all the way down to 89%.
Okay.
Now, I remember I used to keep that as a squat, right?
Yeah.
Where I'd go to like, I'd start trailing down to like 95. Dude, I failed it 2 preps in a row. And then I finally, I remember talking to Kyle Trollin back in the barn.
Right.
And being like, dude, I failed this like 3 times every single peak we do this. I need to change this number. It does not work.
It took you till the 3rd time to say, maybe this isn't working.
Well, the best part is I always guinea pigged it on me. So like no one else failed. And I remember Jess was doing it.
Right.
I failed it and I changed the number in the program before she took hers the next day. So like hers was supposed to be like 93 or 95. I was like, no, you're doing 2 singles at 89%. She's like, this is like significantly lower. I was like, trust me, you won't regret it.
Just wait.
Every time I've done it, I fuck it up. And then bench peaks later, and 3 weeks out, the bench is the heaviest.
Okay.
So bench would always peak late. Mm-hmm. So bench would be the heaviest peaker. 2 weeks out, bench would stay only in the openers. So we do openers on bench for 2 weeks out, like a 2x1. And then the rest, including squat and deadlift, had dropped down to the last warm-ups, and even lighter than that, like territory like 85-87%.
Okay.
Right. So think about that, and that sort of still matches what you and me do. So think about like what'd you take the other day? Straps down, wraps on, 617.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean that's about that range for you.
I think so.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was like, what's that? It's your second to last warm up.
Second to last warm up because I'm taking the straps down with wraps and then throwing the straps up for my last.
So even raw, this was very comparable to that.
Yeah.
Right? So like a lot of things I look back on, I'm like, I did change a lot, but like I didn't change a lot. You know what I mean? I stuck with what works.
Right.
And I think that's an important thing to be said too out loud is like when you find a peaking technique that really works for you, stop trying to invent the damn wheel every time. Like, dude, like you don't need to reinvent everything. If it is not broken, don't try to fix it, right? If you've had 2, 3, multiple relatively successful meets off this on, 7 for 9, 8 for 9, 9 for 9, like, dude, this is working for you. So like, don't try to change everything every time. Maybe just like, maybe the peak is just where it needs to be, and you just need to make like a little bit more responsible choices, or fix some technical issues so you don't miss those last couple of lifts at the meet, right?
Yeah, if you've been consistently hitting platform PRs on that, then I don't see any reason why you
Yeah. Because I mean, you're gonna build all that extra strength in that off season, right? So like, why would you try to change up a bunch of stuff that you already know progression wise for that peak? Now, I thought this was a super interesting point when I look back, because not only like my first raw programs, my adapted ones when I started moving into like national championships and like very high rankings, and including the ones you and me do now, I try to look at consistency, like what always stayed the same, dude. And always 1 week out on that very last Sunday before we can peak, like clockwork, dude, it's always your second to last warm up on squat or dead, depending on the week, right? So like if our program had our deadlift on a Friday, Sunday would be the squat, or vice versa. If we squat on Friday, we would do the deadlift on that, and that would be it.
Right.
Because Monday and Tuesday were always accessories only. And then our last day of lifting was our 3x1s at like 55%. And those have modulated throughout the years, but it's generally in the range of like, I think the lowest one I looked through today was 52%. I think maybe the highest one I saw was 60%.
Yeah, I think all mine coming up in like 2 days. Maybe no, tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
dude.
Oh my God, shit, it's tomorrow, dude.
It's all like 50 to 60.
Right, so it's in that range, in that pocket, right? Carl trying to stay in the pocket. Maybe.
Do my best.
You should probably stay in the pocket.
I probably won't. I'll probably overshoot.
Yeah, dude. I mean, but then you won't get a date. You won't get a James. You won't get a date with Lola, bro.
I just need you to tell me on the day of the meet, like, this is why you went to 65% on your Wednesday last lifts.
In the middle of the lift, if I make the Lola voice and I'm like, you just hear this random voice cheering for you, I feel like it's gonna help you.
I think it would.
All
if
right.
I hear a really shitty impersonation of a female voice, I'll be like, that's Travis.
He's
here for me.
Hey, you'll be like, that's how I know he cares.
He cares.
That's a coach right
Coaches
there.
who make shitty female voices in the crowd to yell at you are coaches who cares.
Dude, I couldn't have said it better myself. All right, so that was a lot. We covered a lot already. So with equipment, let's talk about how things have changed in equipment.
Okay.
So with deadlifts, what do we added the reverse bands, right? Well, no, with squat too, right?
We have a reverse band on squat and deadlift, and we have board work for the shirts. It waves differently between like taking your heaviest. So in the 4-week block that I was running for the peak,
right? And yours was 4, not 5, right? Remember
4.
The two raw ones we talked
deload
and then 5 weeks out. So as we've gotten more experience, we've cut a little out.
There's a 4-week block before then with a mini deload at the end, and that's where you take that.
Right,
that
so we could argue that our peak cycle, because that had a lot of Circa Max work in it.
It does, but it's also like a completely different setup.
It is, but it did have a lot of Circa Max in it, so it was preparing us for a peak.
Yeah.
So we could argue if it had a mini deload of that, we're still doing like a...
This is a 4.5 week
like
peak.
a block and then a 4-week circa with a little deload at the end and then into the 4-week push to peak.
Right.
Now, it's about 8 weeks.
Can you explain what a Circa Max is?
So Circa is more like you're utilizing usually AR, so accommodating resistance in bands or changed, and getting as close to your competition max as humanly possible. But a sub-maximal load, meaning like you're not experiencing the whole duration of the weight the whole time. Hence why bands get lighter as you go to the bottom, the chains as well, they pick up heavier at the top, right? So you're priming your CNS and your body to respond to those heavy maximal loads without taking them, because if we took them in that month and then we took them in the peak, shit, we'd be doing that for like 8 weeks in a row and you'd be trashed,
toast, yeah.
right? So it's training your body to kind of like endure and accommodate to those levels of lifting and intensity without experiencing the full duress, I would say, of it.
Yeah, I will add on to it though. It sounds like such a lengthy process in my head, and it probably isn't as complicated as I'm making it. But as I'm going through programs, even before the 4 weeks, I'm taking weights that I'm, putting a pin in this one. That's an important one that I've hit. It's a quote unquote milestone of a lift right there, where I take X amount for a single. Okay, that's cool. Come around when I have the another straight weight double coming up. Let me try to take that one for a double, so I can go up to another single later on, and then take that one for a double, and I just continually climb that until I know the percentage, like what numbers I want to take percentages off of.
Right, so we're utilizing those blocks, sub-maximal, those Circa
blocks.
Maxes in those blocks to help us accommodate, like we said, the RPEs
Right.
versus that month over. We're
Exactly.
using that to determine and plug in for our real percentages we possibly will take.
Just to throw numbers out there as an example, I took first time in the multiply full kit. In here, I took like a 733, and then I took a 750. No, I took 750 first, and then I took a 733 for a double, like whatever 4 weeks later. Okay, and then after that, I think we had the garage gym, and I took the 772 for a single. And
then
then
you
I
took
went 750 for a
double. Yeah,
Yes.
so you're literally rotating that 2-1-2-1 ladder.
So I know where I'm sitting and what's a good number for myself. And once I had that 750 for a double, that's a very good cue for myself and you as well. You've used in the past. Like that is an opener. I can take it for a double. That's an opener.
It's like we're unintentionally smart.
Right.
We don't look back like we know what we're doing until we look back and know, we know what we're doing.
Hey, that actually made sense if it's written down.
Yeah. We're just freeballing it the whole time.
It may have looked like it.
Yeah.
But so where was I? I was taking.
We're talking about resistance. We're talking about reverse bands for the deadlift and the squat and how we utilize those in peak, because I think especially with the squat, and I think you can vouch for this, especially given the last 2 weeks, you can squat it, but the pick in a suit is one of the hardest things, dude.
If you can't pick the weight, you will have a terrible time trying to get it down.
You will ride the rodeo.
I don't even think there's a reason to try and train that portion of the lift if you cannot pick the weight.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. So one of the hardest things in equipment, especially with your straps up and super tight, is you lose a lot of feeling, right? Yeah. So it's hard to tell exact bar placement, where you shift. It's very weird. And the heavier the weight, the harder you're cranking the suit, the harder you're cranking the wraps. Things feel different.
Usually by the time I get to an opener, and if I pick slightly wrong and can roll, I can correct. But anything over that, you got to dial it in by that point. Okay, that was wrong. I have to do this instead.
Right, yeah. You got to fix it now, or a second attempt's going to be terrible.
Yeah, I'm in for a ride.
So when we take those reverse banded third attempts or projected higher attempts, like 105%, with the band assistance, of course, with the reverse band assistance, it's to practice those picks at a heavier weight and have that control over it. So it's like, okay, so if I can take this and squat this with that pick, another 5% down to ballpark the number I was originally aiming for makes sense.
Yeah. And at the same time, you've had weeks of training up until then, so your CNS is probably pretty cooked already. Taking that reverse band, having a little bit load off of the bottom, but having that full load
experience
at the top.
The actual load.
Right.
And that worked for me because I took 825 with the reverse. I picked it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this feels exactly what I thought it was going to feel like. It felt like absolute dog shit.
And then what did you do?
At the meet?
No. On the platform after you picked it.
Oh, I told you to put my ass fuck back in the rack. I picked it successfully, and then I was like, I'm not going to squat this. This is a terrible idea.
We're putting this back.
And I'm putting it back in the rack. But just like we said, if that was my 105, at the meet, 800 to 805 was my 100%.
Exactly.
And then I banged that out at the meet, no problem.
Exactly.
Right? So, it did prepare me for that. And I've done that multiple times. I remember it took 805 in that the Ghostbusters suit. Remember it was the gray Titan multiply suit that had the laces put in? That was a mock LUP. I remember I picked it was my first time I squat 750 in that suit at a meet, but I had picked 775 in that suit in training. But yeah, I think there's definitely something to that, and it's kind of I would say it's in that almost that same category as static holds.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
I think you had written into one of the programs that it's a 105% static hold. Or
reverse band.
Taking a reverse band squat.
Yeah. That sounds like something
depending how the day goes.
And how fatigued you are, because you got to be flexible on your peak a little bit. Dude, you got to pay attention. The idea is it's not always the strongest who does the best at the meet. It's the ones who are the most intact.
Yeah.
So if you're fucked up getting to the meet, it's not going to help you very much.
I will talk a lot on flexibility in a peak right now because going through the first 2 weeks of this peak, I had to take my squat and my bench on the same days just because that's the hands I had that day. I had enough people here to squat a big one, and I had people there to hand me off benches. So it wasn't an ideal setup by any means, but it was one that I had to work with, and it's one we made work.
Yeah.
So that just goes into hey, you have to flow with it and kind of make changes as you go. Everything's not perfect, but if you can work with it and reel yourself in, make honest calls, then you'll do fine.
That is tough because but that does help us a little bit because I had well prepared you for stuff like that, with weekend totals we had been doing. So it sucks, but you had done it before. It wasn't something that was totally not ingrained for you to do.
The only thing that changed was I did not take my heaviest on the 4 week. I took it on the 3 week.
Yeah, that's true.
The heaviest bench is on the 4th. I took that after my opener squats. So that was a fun one.
Right. Well, that's important to say because that's one of the notes I wrote down. Where our bench dies off the quickest to give us the most amount of time of rest in a shirt.
Yes.
Because after we take the 3 weeks out in a shirt, We're not in a shirt for 2 more weeks.
We're taking boards on 2 weeks out, and then
Boards is 2 weeks out, but it's early in the 2 weeks out.
I can just look at it.
Yeah, well, I'm almost positive it's it's only board work on 2 weeks out, and that'll probably be that Sunday.
Yes.
So that's almost 2 full weeks of not being in a shirt, because the next time you bench on that weekend, it was just 331. It was our last raw warm-up before you put your shirt on.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I've made that mistake before where I stayed in a shirt way too many weeks in a row, and even by the time like you try to like do one board work, like dude, your bones feel like they're gonna fucking explode.
Your elbows are screaming.
Like dude, you can only manage like maximal loads that your shirt's allowing you to support so many weeks in a row before you need to like get the fuck out of that thing.
Yeah.
Like you feel it in your bones. Like, and that's not an exaggeration. Like you're like, dude, it's like you're white knuckling it, and you can feel like shit in your bones.
And at the same time, you're squatting on a straight bar or something close to a straight bar the whole time.
Oh yeah.
So you're putting havoc on your shoulders and everything.
Yeah. So you really got to pay attention to that. So that additional 1 to 2 extra weeks out of a shirt leading into Meek is like, it sounds, you're like, oh, I don't want to lose my practice in a shirt. Like, trust me, like you need that time out.
I think proficiency in a peak with equipment is what can make or break your peak.
Yeah.
If you're not proficient in the gear, you're in for a rough time.
You shouldn't sign up for a meet if you're not proficient enough in the gear either.
No, not at all.
Like if you've done terrible the 2 blocks in there and you've touched like 1 time in 8 weeks, like dude, I definitely wouldn't suggest signing up for a meet.
If you have a bad workout, if you have a bad lift, that's not going to ruin a peak.
Yeah.
But if you're not proficient in the gear, that could ruin it.
Yeah. I actually, dude, that's a great point, Carl. 100% agree with that. Proficiency in the gear over a missed workout or a chalk one up, it was a dud day.
Whoops.
Yeah, like it happens, especially in gear, I would say more so for me and you in a shirt than it would be for a squat suit or you usually finagle one.
I would say I'm more proficient in my full kit squat than I am in my bench shirt.
Now you had an off deadlift one the last peak, not this one, the other one. You had a bad day in a deadlift suit.
Yeah. And
but you were really still trying to get used to that LUP.
I was.
Yeah. So I mean that was a little harder for you. LUPs are
switching stances, throwing on more layers of gear.
Yeah.
It's always fun to try and learn that and run into a meet.
and then we talked about this in the other episode. This was our first time experiencing that and starting to heat up. So we're like, dude, we got way more layers on than we're supposed to right now. It's very hot. So bench dies off the quickest for the rest time in the shirt. Deadlifts actually stay the longest because we have the resistance bands, or not we have the reverse bands.
We're pulling on reverse.
That was 2 weeks out, right?
That was
2 weeks out for you.
So they climb in. You're pulling openers on the first week, the 4 week block. You're pulling openers the first rotation, that 4 weeks out,
right?
And that moves into a 2 singles at a second attempt, conservative second, and then a more realistic second. So you don't want to take the full jump to a second attempt until like your last pull, and then even then you can pull the reins a little bit on that because you have a bigger one coming up the next week. Once you hit that 2 week out, that's when you're kind of, okay, we have to pull some heavier weights this week, and then it all dials back.
One of the biggest things we practice in our blocks and our Circuit Max training that I wanted to make sure I wrote down, because I looked at a lot of this, and it was pretty consistent throughout many of the programs you and me have done together, is taking those either it's usually a double or a single, right? And it's where, have you seen the ones where I say, hey, you get this many sets, including your top set, and
you have like 7 sets.
You have like, I think it says 6 to 8 sets, including your top set, and you have to get to that RP by that, and that's meat training. That's meat training. That's taken from an empty bar through all your warm-ups to get to that set in a prescribed amount of sets and time.
Yeah, because you got X amount of time to warm up at a meet, so you just got to keep going.
Yeah, and I notice I program a lot of stuff like that, so when we get to a meet, we're not like, oh, what do we take next? We take what we've been taking the entire cycle.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point.
Yeah, and dude, taking your normal warm-ups that you've been doing and practicing is what you should be doing at a meet.
Oh, definitely.
And if you're like, hey, I take too many warm-ups, and then the day of the meet, you're like, I need to take less warm-ups, that's a user error, bro. You should have figured that shit out well before the meet. Like, you need to know, and that's why I practice these with Carl and writing the 6 to 8 sets to get to your top set is you need to know, okay, if I need to cut one of these warm-ups here, which one of these can I make a bigger jump at a lower weight versus, oh shit, I'm out of time and now I'm crammed and I still got to make a 100-pound jump.
Yeah.
Like, that's not good odds.
Right.
And that's accumulating way too much higher level fatigue way too quick while you're in the back in the warm-up room.
That's actually something I was just thinking of in the past week because this is a pound meet and I train on kilos here. So I'm gonna be that guy in the warm-up room, like, hey, I need a plate and a 10. Hey, I need 2 plates, 2 10s.
Yeah, because you want to keep it right.
Give me 3 and a 25.
It makes sense, though. It makes sense. We're gonna have to have our phone calculators out too, because it'll be pound plates, but with a 65-pound bar. So
yeah, it's gonna be
totally not
and
used to that.
They might have 100-pound plates back there.
Yeah. It'll be way off.
What the hell am I doing?
I'm just gonna be, dude. I'm gonna be calculating for you all day. And you know what we need to do? Friday, when you and me go weigh in with you,
right.
We'll look at what's equipment in there, and we'll just make a little list in my phone. So I'm say, hey, this is the bar on the rack. These are what's available. Bar weight with 100 on each side is starting at this. What's the next jump?
We're gonna walk in with a whole scroll of every single warm up jump we're taking.
I don't leave shit to chance. I don't fuck with that during a warm up. I don't. I've seen too many people load plates wrong in a warm up. Shout out John Flagg.
Shout out
John Flagg. Did you see that video I sent him?
I did.
Squat 870 in the warm up room.
Yeah, I'm so glad you had the camera.
Dude, I had my new ring cams installed. He's like, can you send that to me? I'm like, bro, I got you. All right, so we've talked a lot about how it was already different with raw versus implementing equipment. We talked about that pretty much. We talked about AR and Circa Max style versus linear building, where things go all the way up and then all the way down, versus like one of us having a Circa Max where we're using AR beforehand to use RPEs and base those off of how we're going to judge our percents going into the actual peak.
Right.
Now, this is something we could talk about. Natural versus PEDs in a peak, and how does it matter recovery-wise?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Right?
Definitely changes things.
Yeah, it definitely does change a lot of things. Especially, like, I don't think I would program athletes who are natty. Like, I don't think I'd necessarily push as hardcore weekend totals like you and me do, especially natural and not on gear. Right? Because the gear, even though it does take a lot out of you, the actual equipment, I think a lot of that, like, you can do a lot with equipment on and take a lot less. Like, for me anyway, I feel like I'm less beat up. Like, I remember, and I would say that's a pretty good reflection of me, though, because, like, I'm getting older and I'm in gear. So, like, when I was younger, even raw, I felt more beat up when I was raw.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty common thing, though, for people to be like, yeah, raw definitely beats you up more than the equipment. The equipment has a carryover factor with that.
I mean, I think it also depends on, like, what cycle of what kind of, like, PEDs they're actually taking, which is hilarious. We're talking about this because I've nonstop seen all this crazy bullshit lately about, like, people's PEDs, banned substances getting slipped into their substance-free, highly USDA qualified pre-workout and bullshit. Like, dude, there's so many clean lifters that are taking bullshit and just trying to get under the radar. Like, how much are you gonna let the wool be pulled over your eyes and believe that's all? Oh, it was accident. It was by chance.
It has been in the sport since they had tested
and
meats,
it
will
continue to be there, man. But remember, you needed to say DT in front of your meat name because
that's right. That's what matters.
You're a real lifter. Shots fired. Pew, pew. I'm just saying, it doesn't fucking matter.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, do whatever you want, but I don't fucking
care. Try not to compete in a tested meet if you're on shit.
Don't try. Don't fucking do it, man.
That's the only rule. You don't do that.
And if you do drugs and then stop taking drugs and then go compete natty, fuck you.
Yeah, you're a piece of shit.
You're a piece of shit, dude. Like, you're a fucking cheater. Just fucking, if you're gonna cheat, go cheat with everyone who's cheating.
That's right. Make it a fair game.
It's fun to cheat. Just do it together, man. Stop trying to fucking act like you're better than everyone and keep it a secret. Just be honest about your drug use and go compete where everyone else is on drugs. The playing field is even.
All the bench shirts are just cheating because we can put up heavier weights so we all compete together.
Yeah. Fuck. What are you doing, bro? Just come join the party. It's way more fun. way more fun. All right, so we talked about how long peak is needed for, right? We talked about how we had your traditional 6 weeks being the deload, 5 being the heaviest and tear it out, how that switched up to 3 weeks and 4 weeks being the heaviest, and how 5 turned into more of like a reaccommodating reload volume into going into the peak versus now what we do now. And we also mentioned, like, don't fix what's broken. Like, you don't need to fucking do that shit. Now, this is a point you wanted to bring up about the strength already having been built. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to any blocks you're running before the peak, that is your building period. you're putting your size on, you're putting your strength on. If you're trying to go up a weight class, that is the time to do it, not during the peak.
Yeah, I do. That's my biggest bugaboo, dude. You have a lifter text me and be like, I'm doing 75 kg weight class. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah,
and I'm like,
why am I just hearing about this?
Yeah,
now?
like what? Not 82.5. Like what are we doing? I want to lose some weight. Now is not the motherfucking time.
Right. So as you're building this strength in these periods going into the peak, once you get to the peak, that is just honing your craft. You are honing the skill to go into a meet and put up the most successful total. As far as trying to get stronger during a peak, yes, your numbers will climb because the volume's dropping and you're taking a different approach, but you are not actually getting stronger. The strength is already there.
No one gives a fuck about what you miss at a meet.
Exactly.
So saying like, well, I got 600, but I went for 650. No one gives a shit. It's all about your successful attempts, right? It just means you weren't honest with yourself and you made a bad judgment call.
Yeah.
Right? So like, all these people that tell you, like, leave it all on the platform, go, if I miss a lift, whatever, I feel fine because I left it all out there. Like, cool, great for you, dude, but that didn't build a bigger total. And one of the big things I always tell Carl, and I love this, I'd rather say, I wish I went 5 pounds more than shit, I wish I went 5 pounds less.
I do have something to add, though.
Sure, go.
If you already have a total PR, and you already pull.
Okay.
If you already
you're
pulled
saying
like a good deadlift,
you stick by the
swing for it.
The third
swing
death
for something
swing.
big. If you think it's there, fucking go for it.
If it's your third and you've already got what you wanted, Carl said, put that thing on the table, bro. Let it
show it to everyone.
Show it to everyone. But yeah, miss lifts don't make totals, and it's all about what you have in you for the day, not what you want. Those are the two biggest takeaways I think I want you to listen to and let sink in from this podcast, man.
Definitely.
We're almost at time already.
I think
we got like 2 minutes.
How do you want to wrap it up?
Let's give a shout out real quick. So, are you low on energy? Are your dogs not barking? Well, we got some shit for you to kick them babies into high gear. Chris Northern, Sup Dogs, on the Eastern Shore, supplying us with high-octane peach thing.
Ooh.
Deadlift, it is all peach.
It is.
I'm not peached out yet, by the way.
I heard they had a grape one. I want to try the grape one soon.
They have a grape one?
I think so.
How the fuck are we on the team and we don't know about the... I don't know about the grape one. I don't know shit. I don't know shit. All right, well, support local, support Chris. He's actually sponsoring Maryland's Strongest Man right now.
Awesome.
With Sup Dogs,
So
man.
sick.
He gives back to the community. He's at all the events in Maryland. He gives back to the cave. He sponsors this podcast. So Cavecast 10, or no, it's just Cavecast. Cavecast for 10% off for your product purchase. Support us, support the cave, and support Chris, man. Awesome. And our big bookie dude down here by the same guy that made the fatal mistake of taking 870 in the warm-up room.
Not his fault.
Not his fault. Something in the book about that. You can do it by the book. Our boy John Flagg from Rebuild Stronger and his new book, Foundational Strength. He is the man, a father, a writer, a phenomenal strength athlete and coach. John's the man. I put my life on that shit. He actually even filmed the pictures from that the book here at the cave. Put up the white sheets and everything and snap some photos, man. So John is our man. If you want a great coach, if you want a great read, if you want a book that's accessible and broken down simple for everybody, whether you're new to lifting or an experienced veteran looking to how to word things better for your athletes and a coach, there's your things right now. And last but not least, my man, Liam, been with me for over 5 years now. We've been making bear down steel for, not just bear down steel, bear down for almost 5 years now. Liam is an artist just like me. We collaborate on everything. He gives back to my 501c3 Children's Foundation. He has supported the cave, the meets. He has sponsored the American Pro, the man that does it all. Shout out to him. He is the shit, and I am very grateful to be a part of that team. And with him, hi, Bo. And we just want to. All right, so that's about our time for today. Closing remarks, Carl?
That's about it. I think we covered everything.
I think we did a good job, man. And I'm looking forward to see you catch this date with Lola in an 805
That's
squat.
right.
805 squat.
We'll see.
If you miss the squat and Lola doesn't want you, maybe Bo will take you out for dinner.
I think Bo would.
Can she catch a Carl? That's the name of our game show. Coming to you next. All right, so guys, peace and love. With love and grumpy paws, we're out of here.
Out.